Hello, everybody, and welcome to our video review seminar. I'm Susanna Collins, alongside my good friend, former MLSer, co-host of This Week in MLS, Kaylin Carr.
Susanna, always good to be with you.
Always great to be with you, buddy. Okay, so we are all here because on August 5th, MLS will roll out their full implementation of video review. After that, it's going to be a part of every single MLS game. This is an initiative that the league has been working in conjunction with the Professional Referees Organization with for the last 3 years. And right now, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce a gentleman who has had a huge part in this process, world-renowned FIFA referee, Mr. Howard Webb. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm delighted to be here. We're so excited about this project. MLS have been working for a long time, 3 years now, to bring this to fruition, and we're nearly there. So it's going to be a great tool for our officials, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you today.
Yeah, so Howard's going to be breaking it all down for us. This is how it's going to work today, guys. So Howard, in conjunction with our video team here, has put together a series of videos that will go through all the procedures and protocol. We're going to take a look at goal scenarios, penalty kick scenarios, red cards, mistaken identity, and a few other rules and scenarios that we will address. There is going to be time for questions after each video segment for the lovely members of the media who are also here today. We have Ron Blum from the Associated Press, Alex Abnos from Sports Illustrated, Paul Tenorio from 442, Andrew Wiebe, our very own MLSsoccer.com senior editor, and David Goss, host of Extra Time Radio. Guys, thank you so much for being here. So, as I said, after each video segment, there's going to be an opportunity for you guys to ask questions. If we can keep the questions specific to that segment that we just talked about, that would be great. But hopefully we'll get a chance to get to all of your questions. Also, if you guys are watching at home on the live stream, hit us up on Twitter. Use that hashtag AskHowardWebb. We'll do our best to get your questions on the show, and Howard will do his best to answer. But without further ado, should we get to it?
I'm ready, Susanna. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Let's get to our very first video, which is an overview of video review.
Video review has arrived in Major League Soccer and will be used by the referee as an additional tool to ensure that clear mistakes are avoided and serious incidents aren't missed. It's not meant to change the way the game is played. The goal is maximum benefit from minimum interference. There's a video assistant referee, also known as the VAR, in a booth who is watching all the plays with every video angle available via the match broadcaster. The VAR's job is to check plays and alert the referee when a potential clear and obvious error has been made in one of 4 match-changing situations: goals, penalty kick decisions, direct red card decisions, and mistaken identity. It's not just the incident itself which is checked. The phase of play prior to most match-changing incidents will also be checked by the VAR for any offences. This is called the attacking phase of play, which begins when the team starts the attacking move which leads to the match-changing incident. Here's the way the video review process works. During a match, the referee officiates and makes decisions as normal. Meanwhile, the VAR is continuously checking the play in the 4 match-changing situations: goals, penalty kick decisions, direct red card decisions, and mistaken identity. A VAR can recommend a review to the head referee if a potential clear error or serious missed incident is identified. If the referee accepts the VAR's recommendation, you'll see the referee make the video review signal, which is a TV box motion. At that point, the referee can either watch the footage from the sideline monitor or take the recommendation of the VAR to either uphold or overturn the original on-field decision. But remember, the final decision always belongs to the head referee. And here's something to keep in mind. If there's a stoppage of play after an incident and play restarts before the incident is checked, a referee cannot go back to it. The window to check the play is closed. That's why sometimes you'll see refs holding the play and giving a signal with a finger to the earpiece, giving the VAR time to complete the check. Now, video review will not change the basic way the game is played, nor are we aiming for 100% accuracy. Referees make hundreds of decisions in every game, and if we checked every single one, it would change the way the game is played. But video review will improve the game and give the referees the help that they need.
Okay, so Howard, coming out of this overview, what are your biggest points of emphasis here?
Well, there it is, a little overview for you about this project video review. I think the thing that comes out of that, and that I want to emphasise really, is that all the time the VAR in the video operation room is checking the plays. It's not a case of the referees having to speak to the players, the coaches, to say, go and check this one. Everything is being checked throughout the game. And we're seeing maybe 10 or 12 checks on average per game. It depends on the nature of the actual game. And what the VAR is checking for is the situations that we talked about in that video. The 4 reviewable plays: goals, penalty kicks, direct red cards, and mistaken identity. So when one of these things happens, then the VAR is looking, has a potential clear and obvious error been made by the referee? And if one becomes apparent, then the VAR recommends to the referee that a review takes place. So we have checks and we have reviews, 2 different things. We mentioned on the introductory video that you'll sometimes see referees holding the play with a finger to the earpiece. That is a check that's taking place. That means that the VAR is checking the play to see, has a clear and obvious error been made? And if one becomes apparent, then we then move to the recommendation for review, and the referee can accept that recommendation and make this universal signal the shape of a TV screen, and that's what starts the review. Now, what is the VAR looking at? They're looking at broadcast feeds only. So we take maybe 8 or 12 camera angles. It might be more. It depends on how many cameras come in for the broadcasters. And we only rely on those feeds. And if we don't have an angle from those feeds that shows categorically that the referee has got something wrong in the opinion of the VAR, then we have to consider the on-field decision as being correct. So if we take this example of a goal being scored in a game at Orlando, you'll see that the camera angles from the broadcasters don't give us a clear picture as to whether or not a clear and obvious error has been made when this goal is awarded. We'll see that the ball is close to the line on the day the goal was actually given. When you look at all the different footage that we've got here, we can't see if that was a clear and obvious error. So we have to go with the on-field decision. If this decision hadn't been given as a goal, if play had continued, equally, we wouldn't have intervened as VARs either. We'd have accepted the on-field decision as being the correct one. So basically, that's where we are. We use the broadcast feeds, we're checking for clear and obvious errors, and if one doesn't become apparent, we take the on-field decision as being correct. People have often said, how long is this process going to take? Is it going to slow the game right down? Are we going to have lots of reviews in games? Are we going to be adding 20 minutes? Well, that's not what we're experiencing so far in our test games. We've tested VAR live and offline in about 130 games so far in North America. So we've got quite a lot of experience already, and we analysed the first 90 of those. And in those first 90 games, on average, on the left there are the number of checks. That was around about 9 per game. So those are the reviewable plays, the goals, the direct red cards, the penalty kick situations, and the mistaken identity cases. We checked for all of those, and if a clear and obvious error was identified, then it went to the review stage, and in total there was only 26 reviews in 90 games. And then how long do these reviews take? Well, of course it's going to take a bit of time, because when we have a review, the referee makes the TV signal, and that triggers either the referee going to look at the pitch side monitor, if it's something that needs to be looked at again by the referee. In most cases, that's what will happen in MLS soccer. Or they'll accept the information for factual matters from the VAR over the earpiece. And it takes a bit of time, of course, but not as much as you might think. When we looked at this, on average, we saw an increase in the stoppage for those key situations that are reviewable of just over a minute. So we did some work before this project came into being. When we had a red card or a penalty kick given, the game was stopped on average over a certain number of games, just over a minute, 1 minute 25. That was pre-VAR. With VAR, the average time was 2:41. So an increase of 1 minute 16 across that sample set. So, yep, some increase, but not the huge impact. And remember that the protocol says quite clearly that the underlying principle of VAR, video review, is minimum interference for a maximum benefit.
Howard, in the event that there is a video review, will this be time added on at the end of the half or at the end of the match?
Yes, Kellen, it will. It will be added on at the end of the half like any other stoppage. So any time the referee is holding the restart with the signal that we've talked about, the finger to the earpiece, or the time that's added between the TV signal happening and then when the referee comes back, he makes another TV signal screen as well. That's the time that's added by the fourth official on the board. So we don't lose any playing time at all.
Okay, I just want to remind everyone that's watching, you can ask questions using that hashtag AskHowardWebb. Right now, we'd like to open it up to our media members. Are there any questions that you guys have at this point?
Yeah, you mentioned that most of the time in MLS, they'll be using the video monitor to actually review these decisions. Why is that the case, and what determines whether a referee will go to the video monitor on the side of the field versus relying just on the VAR?
Yeah, we feel here that the centre referee should be the person who, in most cases, makes the final decision. I think that's the way it works in many North American sports. I think there's credibility in the referee taking a look again at the play, making the final judgment on what has happened or hasn't happened. If it's really clearly factual, so for example, if the ball was 2 yards out of play before coming back in and there's a goal scored straight after that, or if a player was 3 yards offside, 2 yards offside, very clearly, then we don't advocate the referee on the field going to the pitch side monitor. We feel that would just add time that's not necessary when it's so clear, when it's so factual. But if there's any element of interpretation needed, and that happens a lot in soccer, then we want the referee to go there, make the final determination, have a look at it. He'll stay visible throughout the entire process. He won't go disappearing up a tunnel anywhere. He'll use a pitch side monitor, make the final call, come back, give the TV signal, and either retain the original call. That could happen. In some cases, the VAR might not have maybe intervened correctly, and the referee might think, no, that wasn't a clear error, I'm going to stick to my original call, or he'll change the call and indicate the new one.
Howard, it strikes me that each individual referee role takes a certain set of skills, whether you're the head referee, assistant referee, the fourth official, and now VAR. What are those skills that you're looking for in that official? How have they been trained? What do you need to be a successful VAR?
Well, first of all, the professional referee organisation who I work for have spent a lot of time and energy training our guys that brought me in, for example. That's a clear indication of how seriously MLS and Pro are taking this initiative. We've subjected our officials to well over 100 hours training, in fact, into several hundred hours in some cases. They've all been exposed to live games as referee in a VAR match, a video review match. They've also worked as live VARs. They've worked as surrogate VARs, where they're not communicating to the referee on the field, but they are actually making decisions as they would do in a live scenario. And we've also done stuff offline, we've done stuff over the internet, we've done stuff at training camps. We were all together in Utah last week. So put our guys through a lot of training. That is so important. And of course, we're seeing how they are performing, and we're identifying the ones who are really good at it. The ones who are really good are the ones who are calm under pressure, composed, good communicators, and can be decisive. Because whilst we're saying, OK, you don't have to rush this process, we understand that we don't want these reviews to take too long. Accuracy is the most important thing, though. We are absolutely reminding our guys of that. So they need to be accurate. They need to take the amount of time it needs to be accurate in the decision, but they need to be decisive. A lot of the skill sets are the same as what top referees have on the field. We'll see maybe some of our guys who are really excellent as VARs might specialise in that in the future. Who knows? Maybe retired referees could get involved as well, so we can utilise their skills when they're no longer running around on the field. But they have to be calm under pressure, they have to be composed, they have to be good communicators within that team in the VOR, the video operations room, and they have to be decisive.
Great questions, guys. Time to move on to our next segment, which is goal scenarios. Here we go.
Every time a goal is scored in a match, the VAR can alert the head referee to a potential clear and obvious error in the goal action or in the build-up to the goal. Here's the basic question which needs to be asked. Was the awarding or non-awarding of the goal a clear and obvious error? Sometimes the video will show if the ball has crossed the goal line. But there are a host of other elements which can be reviewed on a goal, including infractions within the attacking phase of play, which could possibly negate the goal. In this situation, we see a mix-up between the defender and the goalkeeper, which leads to the ball being cleared from near to the goal line. The call on the field was that a goal wasn't given, and play was allowed to continue. But when we watch a video replay, we can see clearly that all of the ball was over the goal line and a goal should have been given. The VAR would be able to recommend to the referee that a goal is awarded and a goal would be given. In this next situation, a goal is scored, but the question is, was there a handball in the attacking phase of play? The ball comes in from a throw-in, and the attacking player controls the ball before scoring. Because it's a goal, it's something that the VAR can check. When we look at the replay, we see that the player actually controls the ball using his right arm. This is clear and obvious, and as such, a recommendation will be made by the VAR to the referee that the goal should be reviewed. The handball happens within the attacking phase of play, and therefore this goal can be negated. In this next situation, a goal is scored, but the question is there an offside offence in the build-up? The ball is crossed into an attacker who controls it with his chest before scoring. the flag stays down and the goal is given. The VAR would check the goal as normal. And on doing so, looking at the replay, it's clear that the player who scores is in an offside position when the ball is played. As such, this would lead to a recommendation by the VAR that the goal is disallowed for the offside offence. In this next situation, a goal is scored and awarded, but the big question is, did the player who scored the goal commit a foul in the attacking phase of play? So as we join this clip, the attacking phase of play has already started. The ball is eventually crossed into the centre forward, who scores with his head, but the defender is on the floor. And the video review shows that the attacking player who scores commits a clear and obvious foul on his opponent. And as such, because this is a goal and it's something which can be checked by the VAR, and because a clear and obvious error not to penalise the foul has been identified, a recommendation will be made to the referee to review this play, which would result in the goal being disallowed. So the important point to remember is that when a goal is scored, it's always checked by the VAR, checking for offences, handballs, offsides, fouls, but also for balls out of play. We can only work with the video angles that we've got, and if the video doesn't clearly show that the on-field decision was an error, then we have to go with that on-field decision, and we can't get involved. So when goals are scored, the VAR checks everyone in an attempt to reduce clear and obvious errors.
Okay, so Howard, you mentioned the APP, the attacking phase of play. Can you kind of elaborate exactly what that is?
Yeah, the APP, attacking phase of play or attacking possession phase, it's a really important part of video review. It's the phase of play that leads up to the reviewable incident. And when video review was first thought about by the International FA Board, they thought, well, we can't just check the actual incident itself. We have to check, what leads up to it. There could be a situation where the goal is clean. There was no handball on the actual scoring of the goal. It was scored by the head, but the player maybe handled it 3 seconds earlier or 4 seconds earlier. It's not right to only look at the final action. We have to look at the full phase of play. And they thought, well, how far do we go back? Do we go back 2 minutes, 1 minute, 45 seconds? No, we don't. We go back to the start of the attacking phase of play, the attacking move which led to that incident. So our officials have to make a decision when that starts. It starts, when the attacking move starts, it's when the team usually moves towards the opponent's penalty area with some purpose. It's pretty clear when you watch a phase of play, the team has keep ball, suddenly they'll make that move forward. The VARs will say the word reset, which means, OK, we're not interested in what happened before, we're only interested in knowing what happens from that point to the reviewable incident should it happen. At that time, obviously, they don't know what's going to happen until it does. But when it does, they go back to the start of the APP to see, was there any reason why that penalty, that goal, or that red card for Dogso, that denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, shouldn't be given. So we're looking for offences by the attacking team, handballs, we're looking for maybe a foul or an offside, or was the ball out of play in that attacking phase of play? And we've got an example of a situation here from a game in MLS. We'll see that the play is taken with a throw here, and the ball comes across the field towards, at the moment New York City have the ball. The ball then is touched by a Portland player, and the New York City player then handles the ball and plays a lovely ball in, which then creates a goal for David Villa. That's a goal, so it's reviewable it's a reviewable incident, it's checkable by the VAR. So the VAR will check, was there any situation in the APP which would negate the award of that goal which was given? So they're looking for these offences, and here we see the hand is out, it stops the ball, it gains possession for New York City, and it creates the start of the attacking phase of play, and therefore we see that goal would almost certainly lead to a check. It would lead to a check, then it would lead to a recommended review, and the referee can have another look at that play on the pitch-side monitor, provided that the VAR considers that a clear and obvious error has been made by the referee not to penalise that handball situation. So that is what APP is in practice, and it only affects goals, penalties, and red cards for denial of obvious goal-scoring opportunity.
Now, Howard, that's from the run of play. I think some people may wonder about the attacking phase of play as it relates to a dead ball or a set piece. If there's a goal scored off of a set piece, can you go back to review the foul that was committed beforehand to determine whether that was in fact a foul?
You can't. You can't go back to check a free kick that leads to a goal just in case it wasn't a free kick in the first place. We have around maybe 30, 32 on average fouls per game in professional soccer in different leagues around the world. The MLS will sit in a very similar place. If we checked every single free kick, can you imagine how long that would take to get the angles into the VOR, to look at it, to say, was it a clear and obvious error? No, we don't. We're talking about minimum interference for maximum benefit. So we check the scoring of the goal. We don't check if it came from a free kick. We don't check the award of that free kick, unless, of course, that involved a potential red card offence as well. Then we do go into review and we can change the restart, but it needs to be a red card offence or possible red card offence. If it's a regular free kick that's given, the video shows it later that it was maybe harsh or even possibly wrong. Even if it leads to a goal, we can't actually do anything about that from a VAR point of view. Hopefully the referee will call it right in the first place.
Okay, Howard, I would like to prompt you to slide 14. I believe it's the foul prior to the goal video. If you could kind of explain this for us.
We saw in the video a goal being scored where the attacker clearly fouls his opponent within the penalty area to free himself up to score with the head. And that offence obviously happens within the attacking phase of play. It happens only a few moments before the goal is scored. It's clearly within the attacking move. I'm going to show it you again. And here we are. We see that when we join the action, we're already in the attacking possession phase, the attacking phase of play, if you'd rather call it that. The ball goes out wide and it comes in to the attacker, who throws his opponent to the ground, which allows him the opportunity to head the ball into the goal. The point I want to make with this video is that that's a goal, so therefore the VAR can check the goal. He or she checks every goal. We've said that already. However, if this header led to a brilliant save by the goalkeeper where he tips it over the bar for a corner, even though this foul still exists, it's only a corner at that stage. It's not a goal. So we can't do anything about that foul, even if the corner then led to a goal. At that time, it's only a corner. If we checked every corner, we'd have a lot of things to check. If we checked every throw-in, we'd have a lot of things to check, and we don't want to change the basic way the game is played. So we only check goals. If this was headed, the keeper saves it, we have a corner, we don't check corners.
Okay, there's also a slide with the goal in the net after the whistle. Can we talk about
absolutely.
this scenario?
So some situations we'll see where the ball ends up in the goal, but the assistant has raised a flag for offside, and the referee disallows the goal. Or we see a situation where a goal is scored, but the referee penalises the attacker for maybe a foul on a defender, on a goalkeeper. We'll show you the example here where exactly that happens. We'll see a goal is scored, and the referee disallows the goal for a foul on the goalkeeper. Now, what video review allows us to do, it allows us to check that play again, in case the referee's made a clear and obvious error in disallowing the goal. So here the ball comes in, the keeper comes together with an attacking player, the ball goes in the goal. Now, the really important thing here, guys, is that the whistle doesn't go until after the ball is in the back of the net. So because the ball's already in the goal, it leads us to an opportunity to check the play, and if a clear and obvious error is identified, if there was no foul by the attacking team, and here you can see there wasn't, then that can lead us to a situation where the goal can be awarded, provided the whistle only went after the ball was in the back of the net.
Okay, Ron, I believe you had a question.
On an offside call where the ball goes into the net, what is the demarcation point where it can be reviewed by the VAR or not? When he plays it and the flag goes up as the ball is headed toward the net, is that reviewable?
Well, if it goes into the goal and the whistle hasn't gone, then we absolutely can review that, Ron. If the whistle goes before the ball's in the back of the goal, the game is dead at that moment, so we can't review that situation. But if a goal is scored, the flag might be up, the whistle goes to disallow it. Because the ball was in the goal before the whistle went, then that is something that we can check. Was that flag clearly and obviously wrong? And if we have an angle that shows it was, and the ball's in the goal, and the whistle didn't go before the ball was in the goal, we can review that and we can award the goal and rectify that wrong flag, which is a nice thing to be able to do. You know, it's hard to score goals in this sport. When you do, you don't want to rule them out wrongly. You want to give the goals that are correct. So players must remember they have to play to the whistle and not to the flag.
Paul, you had a question.
Just a quick follow-up on that. Are referees now being encouraged maybe to delay a whistle in an offside situation like that so that something could be reviewed afterwards? It's
a good question. We are saying to our referees, look, don't change the basic way you officiate. You know, do it as you've always done in terms of making the calls. Once you've made the call, the VAR will check whether it was clearly or obviously wrong. The only slight amendment you might see is that if it's if it's highly likely that an imminent goal will be scored in such a situation, then the referees are being told just delay your whistle momentarily to see if that goal does happen. That's the only real change. Everything else will be the same as it is. The referees will make the calls from the angles that they have as a team of 3, 4 with the fourth official, and then that will be checked by the VAR to see if a clear and obvious error has been made. But yeah, you might see a slight delay on the whistle because that allows us to capture a mistaken offside flag or maybe a situation like we saw there where a foul was given wrongly.
So, for example, with the Drogba play that happened where he pulls the man down, a referee is going to try and maybe understand that if they don't call the foul and they let the goal go in, then they can review the play? Because I think that's something fans are asking is if there's the potential that the referee's trying to adjust their calls.
Yeah, and again, we don't really want referees to adjust the way they're refereeing. We're saying to them, look, if you see a foul, you blow for the foul, you know. You're right, if the whistle hasn't gone, then we can rectify that situation where maybe a mistake was made. But really, you know, don't forget, minimum interference, maximum benefit. We don't want the basic way the game is officiated to be changed.
It occurs to me that sometimes angle is the biggest difference here, and we saw those on those goals. And I'm thinking of a play midweek, Toronto and New York City FC, in which I thought it was offside. You couldn't really tell, but part of it is that angle. Is there any effort to have broadcasters change the way that they arrange cameras, to have extra cameras to give better angles for reviews like this? Yeah,
and clearly the more camera angles that we have, the more opportunity we have to get to a situation where we can be conclusive on something. And even, you know, a camera that's on the 18-yard line, the top of the penalty area, might not give you the answer because the offside might be in a different place. But the more camera angles we have, the better. And also, technology is always advancing, and we're looking to incorporate maybe some offside lines as we go forward, which will assist our VARs in coming to that conclusion whether or not something was clearly and obviously offside.
Great stuff, guys. All right, let's move on to our next segment, penalty kick scenarios.
Penalty kicks are one of the 4 reviewable plays in a match, and we're not just talking about penalties that are awarded, we're also talking about situations when penalty kicks are not awarded. In both cases, the video review can help to determine whether or not there was a clear and obvious error in the decision that was made on the field. In this video, we'll see a player going to ground within the penalty area and a penalty kick being awarded. When we look at the replay, we see that there was no foul and it was a clear and obvious error by the referee to award the penalty. In addition, similar to what we do with goals, we look for potential infractions in the attacking phase of play that could possibly negate the award of a penalty kick. In this situation, we see a foul being committed by an attacking player within the attacking phase of play before a penalty kick is awarded. Because this is a penalty award, the VAR can check the play before, which reveals that there was a clear and obvious error by the referee not to penalise the foul. As such, the VAR would recommend a review, which would in turn lead to the penalty being negated and a free kick being given to the defensive team. The VAR is also checking whether or not there was an offside offence in the build-up to the award of the penalty kick, which would negate the award of that kick. In this situation, we see a penalty kick being awarded. However, in the build-up to the penalty kick, we see that there's another attacking player in an offside position within the attacking phase of play. As such, this is reviewable. Other questions that we have to ask are, was the ball out of play before the penalty was awarded? Or, although it's rare, was there a misapplication of law in the build-up before the penalty was awarded? In such circumstances, if it's clear and obvious, the VAR can intervene and recommend a review, which could negate the penalty. The kicks are one of the most important parts of our games. Some of the most significant situations in a match happen in and around the penalty area. And it's only right and proper, I guess, that video review allows us to check whether or not the award or non-award of a penalty kick is a clear and obvious error. Sometimes people say, OK, a referee gives a penalty and the video shows that it was actually a clear dive. It was simulation by the attacking player. What do you do under video review? Well, in that situation, a penalty is being given, so therefore the VAR can check the play as he or she does on every penalty situation. And when they look at the screen and they see from the broadcast feeds a clear and obvious error has been made, it actually was a dive, then the referee is informed of that and a recommendation for review is made. The referee then looks at the play again on the pitch side monitor and having seen the dive, comes back, makes another TV signal and changes the call, cancels the penalty, awards a yellow card to the player who simulated, who dived, and awards an indirect free kick to the defending team. So we get to the correct answer, not only in terms of the restart, i.e. an indirect free kick for diving, but we also get to the right discipline as well. We end up giving a yellow card to the player who dived. So, again, really good use of VAR. Remember, it's only for clear and obvious situations, not the ones that are 50-50, the ones where, we ask the question, not was the referee right, but was the referee clearly wrong? That's the question we're asking of our VARs to ask themselves when they're working in the video operations room. But if that answer is yes, then they will intervene and we'll get to the right outcome. In that case, it would be a yellow card for the diver as well. We can also deal with the actual taking of the penalty as well. So when a penalty is awarded, you'll see here in this clip, the goalkeeper moves off his line and saves the ball. It's blatant. The laws of the game suggest that goalkeeper movement should be penalised if it's blatant, and in this case that is. He's well off the line, he gets a big advantage by closing down the angle, and therefore the VAR can intervene if the goalkeeper saves the ball and the on-field officials fail to recognise that encroachment by the goalkeeper. And we can also deal with field players as well. If they encroach into the penalty area, clearly, and then become involved in the play, i.e. it might be an attacker who comes in early, the goalkeeper saves the ball, comes off the crossbar or the post, comes back to that attacker who's encroached, he then puts it into the goal or sets up another goal, then we can intervene. If that attacker does nothing, maybe the ball goes into the goal, doesn't get involved, then that's not a situation for VAR. We only get involved when that encroaching player gets involved. The same applies for defenders. If they get involved and they prevent a follow-up goal from that rebound, maybe they clear the ball from being scored on the rebound, VAR can get involved. Again, if the defender who encroaches does not get involved, then VAR doesn't intervene. So again, we can rectify that situation as well, which is nice. We talk about the APP again. It's an important part of penalties. We have to look at the attacking possession phase when a penalty is awarded. We saw this clip from New York Red Bulls and Toronto in the video. We see the attacking phase of play starts there when the ball's played forward. There's a coming together there. Could it be a foul? It might be. It's one that the VAR is going to come back and look at. Should this lead to a reviewable incident? And yes, we have one. We have the award of a penalty kick. So the VAR checks, was the award of the penalty kick itself clearly and obviously wrong? And also, was there any reason why within the attacking phase of play the penalty shouldn't be awarded? And you can see a clear and obvious foul by the attacking player prior to the award of the penalty. The penalty itself, you can't say that's clearly and obviously wrong. That looks an okay call. But certainly when you see the foul that took place in the attacking possession phase, that's something we'd deal with. In that situation, the penalty is being given. The VAR, therefore, checks the play as normal. It's a penalty situation. They would see the clear foul in the attacking possession phase. They'd recommend a review to the referee. The referee, on accepting the review, would make a TV signal, go and look at the pitch side monitor, see for themselves the foul, come back, do a second TV signal and award a direct free kick to the defensive team, and we get to the right outcome there and then on the day, avoiding all the controversy that might have followed otherwise.
Howard, in this play, for example, with Josie getting in behind, what if there are multiple incidents? So say, for example, the ball that springs him in behind, there's a late challenge there. How does that order sequence play out as far as making the right decision?
It's another good question, and it's something that's asked of me all the time. What happens if we have a penalty kick at one end, for example, it's waved away, there's a quick counter-attack, and there's a goal scored at the other end, and the VAR is checking the play, the penalty situation. Was it a clear and obvious error not to give the penalty? The answer is yes, and therefore we go back. We cancel the goal at that end. We come back. We've got a video. It doesn't happen very often, guys. We had a look at this. We had a look at how many times it's likely to happen. It happens maybe twice a season, whereby you have a penalty appeal at one end that's not awarded, and we go up the other end and the team that counters scores. So we have a penalty situation in one penalty area. The ball is cleared. There's a quick counter-attack on, and we see in the end, what's going to happen. A goal is scored. But, video review suggests that we get the opportunity now to correct the mistake when the penalty wasn't given at the other end. We get the opportunity to deal with that there and then. If that was a clear and obvious error, the referee should have given the penalty. For whatever reason didn't. Maybe he didn't have a good view of it. Maybe the TV angle shows an angle that he couldn't possibly get. But if he had have seen it properly, he would have given the penalty, and that goal could never have been scored anyway. So we have to accept that that's what will happen in that situation. We deal with it chronologically, and if one situation happens, even if it's followed by another one, we go back to that original situation if it was a clear and obvious error. You have to remember as well, Caelan, that in situations like this, disciplinary sanctions that are taken after the first incident, when the game continues, For example, if there was a bad tackle in the middle of the field just after the penalty appeal, those disciplinary sanctions, they still stand. We don't cancel them. You can't commit acts of violent conduct or serious foul play and expect to get away with it just because we're going to go back to a previous play. Those cards still stand, as it does for dissent, reckless tackles, for yellow cards. The only one which would be overturned in play is a red card for dog-so, denial of obvious score-scoring opportunity. Because in those situations, we're going to go back, give the penalty. In actual fact, that opportunity to score never really existed because we should have had a penalty at the other end.
Alex, you had a question.
Yeah, Howard, I'm looking at a lot of these plays, and I'm imagining watching this as a fan, maybe in the stadium, or maybe even on the broadcast, and I'm wondering how I'm supposed to know everything that you're telling us right now. Is PRO going to share this information with broadcasters or with fans, and how do fans know, say, for example, with that Josie Altidore chance, that the review was of the foul on the initial ball through and not something else? How do you know that that's what you're looking at? How does this information get out there?
So, first of all, there'll be some visual signs, of course, that you'll see from the officials. You'll see the referee maybe holding the restart. That tells everybody that the VAR is still checking that play. That's a recognised and accepted signal now within this protocol. Then you'll see the TV box signal, which tells everybody that the review process has started, and that'll be followed by a second signal that tells you that the review process has finished. There's a person sat within the video operations room called the video assistant referee, AVAR, and he is or she is communicating using an application to the broadcasters, to the media, to the public address announcer within stadium, and the video board operator that a review is underway when that happens. And then that will be followed with another message with the outcome of that review. So you get some information at the start and at the end. The outcome will be communicated, and then we're going to put the definitive camera angle that showed the play to the broadcasters and also to the video board within stadium, so the fans can see what was seen within that review, and that'll give the answer. And again, we're dealing with clear and obvious things, so hopefully it'll paint a nice picture of exactly why that original decision was changed, or otherwise.
Thanks, guys. All right, let's move on to our next video, red card scenarios.
Straight red cards and only straight red cards are the third set of plays that are reviewable under VAR. These are always checked by the VAR, and in cases of a potential clear and obvious error, the VAR will notify the head referee. Here's the basic question. Was the showing or non-showing of a red card in a specific instance a clear and obvious error? A video check will help answer that question. In this situation, we see the referee award a direct red card for what appears to be a really bad challenge with the use of the arm. Because it's a direct red card, the VAR can check, and if a clear and obvious error is identified, a review can be recommended. As can be seen in the replay, the tackle is not in fact as bad as first thought, and actually a clear and obvious error has been made by the referee. As such, the VAR can recommend a review and the play can be overturned. Sometimes we see the referee fail to correctly penalise a red card offence, maybe by only showing a yellow card. If the VAR checks the play and feels that a clear and obvious error has been made by the referee in not showing the red card, a review can be recommended. That recommendation can be accepted by the referee, who can look again at the play, and if the referee agrees that a clear and obvious error has been made, then the original decision can be overturned and the player can be shown a red card. Now, it's important to note that the only time the attacking phase of play applies to direct red cards is with dog-so, denial of obvious goal-scoring opportunity. In this situation, we see a long ball from the goalkeeper which starts the attacking phase of play. The blue number 9 is fouled just at the edge of the penalty area in an action which denies an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. Because this is a dog-so situation and a possible penalty kick, the VAR can check the play. Not only is the incident checked, but also the attacking phase of play to see if there's any reason why the penalty kick or dog-so should be negated. When we check the attacking phase of play, we can see that actually the attacking player was in an offside position when the ball was played by the goalkeeper, and as such, the offside in the attacking phase of play negates the award of the penalty or the dog-so red card. Red card situations can be match changing, and that's why it's important and right that VARs can check whether or not a clear and obvious error has been made in such situations. So again, red cards, one of the 4 reviewable plays, and again, really important passages of play. When red cards happen, they reduce the team down to 10 men or less, and it's a big situation, creates a lot of attention, and we want to be able to make sure that clear and obvious errors don't happen surrounding red card situations. With red cards, it's a little bit different to goals and penalties in that the attacking phase of play doesn't usually apply. So, for example, if a player gets elbowed in the face by an opponent and that player who was elbowed was offside at the time, does that negate the red card? Of course not. It would negate the award of a penalty or the goal, but it doesn't negate the award of the red card for violent conduct. And the same for serious foul play. If a player controls the ball with their hand and then gets cut in half by a two-footed lunging tackle, is that going to negate the review for the red card for serious foul play? Of course not. We are going to deal with that red card anyway. It only impacts red cards for DOGSO, denial of obvious goal-scoring opportunity. We have to consider the attacking phase of play in that situation. Here we'll see a DOGSO play. You'll see that I think it's Columbus Crew are attacking here. We're in the attacking phase of play now. The ball comes through. The penalty is given. And the question is, should that be a red card for DOGSO? Has that player been denied an obvious goal-scoring opportunity when the opponent pulled his shoulder? And I think that clearly shows yes. That was an obvious goal-scoring opportunity denied. In the laws of the game, that should lead to a red card. The referee didn't give the red card in this occasion, so that would lead to a recommendation for review. And the referee, on accepting that review, would look at that play again on the pitch-side monitor and make a final determination. The VAR would also check the attacking phase of play to make sure that Columbus Crew, in this case, hadn't handled the ball in the build-up to that situation, hadn't been in offside position. If that player had been offside when he was pulled down, then, of course, that penalty wouldn't be able to be awarded, and we certainly wouldn't get to a red card for DOGSO, so we'd give an indirect free kick for offside in that situation. We've talked also about when the ball goes dead after an incident. If the game starts again, we can't go back and review what's been checked. So once the game starts again after an incident, we don't go back and continue the check. That's the check is over. That's why you'll get referees holding the restart to allow the check to be completed. The only exception to that is red cards for violent conduct. The restart does not negate the opportunity for the referee to go back and send a player off when something violent becomes apparent after the restart. Again, the big message is if players act violently on the field, they will be punished when that becomes apparent.
Paul, your question.
Just to be clear, in that replay that you showed of the Orlando goal that would have been negated or the denial of goal-scoring opportunity, he was taken down from behind on a two-footed tackle. Yes, he was offside. Would that red card still remain even though the denial of goal-scoring opportunity would be overturned, but it was still a two-footed tackle from behind? Does the referee at that time determine that the red was not for DOGSO, it was for the tackle, for violent conduct?
I like the way you're thinking, Paul. You're thinking around the right lines here and following the logic. Absolutely. The fact that he was offside doesn't negate the red card if the referee felt it was serious foul play. If it was only DOGSO, it would. That red card could not stand. But if the referee felt it was clearly and obviously an act of serious foul play, then that red card will still stand. Because we're going to a review, in that play, the play continued. So the play would be stopped at the next stoppage, or the referee could stop the play in a neutral zone, having received a recommendation for review from the VAR. The play would be checked on the pitch-side monitor. The referee will make their final determination. In that situation, because we're in a review, we'd give the red card for serious foul play if that's what it was decided upon, and we'd restart with the offside offence when I think it was Kyle Larin was offside. Because we're in review, we can check the entire play and we can get not only to the right discipline, but we get to the right restart as well. So even though the offside doesn't actually impact upon the serious foul play tackle red card, that would still stand, we do still start with the offside offence because within the review, that is what has been identified as the correct restart. So we tidy everything up. When we go into review, we get to the right outcome. We just tidy it all up and make sure we get to the right place. If it was only a DOGSO offence, then that would be impacted by the offside. A player who's offside can't have an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. It should have been offside. Therefore, that opportunity can never be denied.
David Goss.
You mentioned if a play's restarted, then you can't go back and review. Is there any limitation to if the ball doesn't go out of bounds and the play continues to the amount of time that a referee can go back after check and review a red card as long as the ball doesn't go out?
No, there's not. I guess there's a credibility issue. If the play if the ball stayed in play for 5 minutes and then you went back and people have sort of moved on from that situation by then. And you'd have to ask yourself as well, if it takes 5 minutes to check the play, how can that be clear and obvious? Some situations are quite complex. Not always, but some can be, where you've got several situations to check in the same play. Maybe a number of offside situations that happen one after the other, and you have to check each one before you come to a final conclusion. So, don't expect these checks and reviews to happen really quickly. We've said to our officials, get it right. They don't happen so often, once every 3 games, maybe once every 2 games. So let's take our time and get them right. But we do want some efficiency. We want accuracy, but we also want efficiency. And we've been working on that with our officials as well. We've been looking at how quickly they come to a conclusive decision without sacrificing accuracy. So there is no time frame limit in terms of after the incident. When the ball goes out, if it restarts, that is a stop. We don't go back to a previous incident. But if it stays in, then we can go back at any point. But we're hoping to do it more quickly than 2 or 3 minutes. In terms of before the incident, we're just looking at the attacking phase of play. We can go back to the start of the attacking phase of play. So, again, the situation where the New York player handles the ball, he then starts an attack with a lovely pass to David Villa, which scores a goal. If he had handled the ball, controlled it, and passed it back across the back four for a minute, keep ball, and then the attack started, that handball would no longer be part of the attacking possession phase because it didn't sit within an attacking move. It simply regained possession, which they then kept. They could keep it for 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Are we going to go back 6 minutes after an incident? Of course not. That's too much interference from video review. And remember, minimum interference, maximum benefit. So we only look at the attacking phase of play. We don't go back 2 minutes for keep ball, even if the ball was gained through illegal means at the start of that period of keep ball.
Howard, managers tell their players often to be careful for sometimes you retaliate, you're the one who gets caught, get issued a red card. I would imagine this video review process might actually affect the defenders as far as instigating players to try and elicit violent behavior. Have you noticed at all from any of your studies a decrease in red cards based on players feeling the eye of the cameras?
We've only got quite a small subset of data for live games. We've done a lot of offline games with the VAR in place, but not speaking to the referee. We've done live tests in USL, who have been really, really supportive of this project. Some in the region of 25 games have used live VAR in USL games. Before every game, we've gone into the stadium and we've spoken to the players and said, we've got VAR, video review, in this game today, and all of the plays will be checked. And the players have kind of maybe listened to that. I don't know. You'd have to speak to them. The incidents have not been so numerous in those games so far in our trials. I'm sure that players will amend behaviour, knowing that all the plays are going to be checked. There's been a lot of talk about, for example, retrospective action for simulation. It happens here in MLS. The league is really proactive in terms of ensuring that the product that's seen on the pitch is a positive one, and players are dealt with retrospectively when they don't behave in the way that they should do on the field. And now the players know that actually there's going to be somebody checking their actions there and then. So if you dive, you're not just looking at a ban down the line or some sort of punishment. You're looking at there and then action to be taken to rectify that situation. It's got to work as a deterrent, I'm sure.
Ron, you had a question.
Can, in dead ball situations, the VAR get involved, like in the El Salvador game the other night, if the VAR spots someone biting someone as they line up for a free kick, or behind the referee, the VAR sees there was a headbutt who wasn't involved in the play?
Yes, provided that it's captured on the broadcast feeds, and provided it's clear and obvious, Ron, then absolutely that falls well within the protocol for video review. It's an act or potential act of violent conduct, and again, what great use of video review to be able to deal with a player who behaves in that way on the field.
Howard, we have a question from Twitter. One of our viewers, Jonathan Densa, wants to know if a video review for a straight red does not determine the foul as a red card, could a yellow card still be given?
It can. The trigger point for the review would be that the VAR would consider that a potential clear and obvious error has been made by the referee not to give a red card. If a missed yellow card happens and the VAR looks at it and says, well, that should be a yellow card, I'm sorry, we don't deal with that. We don't deal with the yellow cards. If we did, we'd have to deal with all yellow cards, and there's quite a lot of them, and again, that's a lot of interference. We don't deal with second yellow cards. If we dealt with the second yellow card, we'd have to check all first yellow cards, so we don't get involved in that either. But if the VAR looks at a situation, thinks that's a red card situation, or a potential clear and obvious error has been made by the referee not showing a red card, puts it to review. If the referee looks at that on the pitch side monitor within that review process, determines that, no, I think it's a yellow card, the referee on the field makes the final decision always. The referee comes back, shows a yellow card. That is absolutely within protocol, provided that the VAR has recommended a review for a potential missed red card.
Jonathan, thank you so much for your question. Again, use that hashtag #AskHowardWebb. If you're watching, we'll get your questions on air. But right now, let's move on to our next segment, Mistaken Identity.
Video review is fairly straightforward when it comes to cases of mistaken identity. It's important to note that this only relates to situations where disciplinary action is taken. Sometimes an official incorrectly cautions or sends off a player, and the VAR will alert the referee, who can then use the video to rectify those clear and obvious errors. We've seen it happen on a couple of occasions in MLS, and we can see an example here. In this situation, we see the referee award a red card for an offence of denying an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. The offence is committed by number 2. However, the referee makes a clear and obvious error by showing the card to number 4. The VAR can intervene in this situation by advising the referee of that mistake, and it can be rectified with the card being shown to the correct player. Thankfully, cases of mistaken identity don't happen too often, but it's good to know that the VAR is there to check for any clear and obvious errors in such situations and make sure they are rectified.
Okay, so Howard, this seems pretty straightforward, but just to clarify, this not only applies to the individual, but the team as well in cases of mistaken identity.
Yeah, it does. I guess when people think about mistaken identity, they think about the wrong player from the same team being cautioned or sent off. Maybe the players have moved and the referee's mistaken one player for another, and the card has been shown to the wrong player. It also applies if the wrong player is penalised for the offence, and actually it was the other team that committed the offence. It doesn't happen often, but I can think of examples where, for example, a defender has been penalised for handball and shown a yellow card. And on the video footage, it shows that actually it was the attacker who handled the ball. So it was a mistaken identity about who committed the offence. Because the defender received a yellow card in that situation, then that can be reviewed, that can be rectified there and then under video review. The yellow card can be taken away from the attacker. It can be given, from the defender, sorry. It can be given to the attacker if appropriate, and the free kick can be reversed and given to the defensive team. However, just remember that only works because there's a yellow card involved or a red card. If there's no card shown and the free kick is given the wrong way, then it doesn't come under video review. It's only to rectify incorrectly awarded yellow cards or red cards when it goes to the wrong player.
Paul, did you have a question? Let's get him the mic. There we go.
This might be obvious, but let's say a collision occurs between a goalkeeper and a forward, and we often see goalkeepers protected a bit more than the players on the field, and a yellow card is given to the forward, and the referee asks to review, and we see that it's actually the goalkeeper who is overly aggressive and commits the foul. That allows the VAR or the center official to change the decision and award perhaps a red card and a penalty kick?
Again, if the starting point is one of the reviewable plays, goals, direct red cards, penalties, mistaken identity, it has to sit inside of one of those incidents to allow the review to happen. Once we're in review, we come to the right outcome. So in a situation where a penalty is given, for example, but the review shows actually the offence was committed by the attacker, then we can reverse that and give it to the other team. That's because we are reviewing the penalty situation. We're within our protocol rights to do that, and if the foul was given the wrong way, then we can turn that around and give it the other way. But we need to get into review through one of those channels. Either a goal has been scored, a direct red card has been given or should have been given, in the opinion of the VAR, a penalty has been given or should have been given, or there's been a mistaken identity in terms of a card has been shown to the wrong player, yellow or red. And provided that we're in those reviews because of one of those channels, then we can get to the right outcome in totality.
Other points of emphasis for you?
Yeah,
Sorry.
a couple of additional points we want to point out. People talk about can VARs intervene, for example, when the restart wasn't taken properly. So, for example, a rolling ball. We have a situation here where a free kick is given by the referee, and when we watch the footage, you will see that the ball was never stationary when the free kick was taken. So here's the foul. Whistle's blown, the ball never stops. That's not the way it should happen. The ball should be stationary when the kick's taken. You know what's going to happen? It's going to lead to a goal. But video review does not allow the VAR to intervene in this situation, even though it leads to a goal pretty much immediately afterwards. The reason being that we don't deal with restarts. If we did, we'd have to deal with every restart. So we'd have to look at every free kick to say, was it moving? We'd have to look at every throw-in. Was it taken in the right place? Was the foot slightly up? Was it on the field? So we deal with everything after the restart that leads to the goal within the attacking phase of play, but we don't deal with restarts themselves. If the ball is just outside the corner quadrant, for example, at a taking of a corner, we don't get involved. If the free kick's in the wrong place, we don't get involved. If the throw-in's taken in the wrong place, again, we don't get involved as VARs. But remember, we expect the officials on the field to get it right. And normally the referee in that situation would stop the play when the free kick's taken with a rolling ball and say, please, take it again, and we'd get it right that way.
Howard, you see players often asking for cautions. That's happened a lot less now because you'll be cautioned for that. I could see this potentially happening where you see a lot of players pulling out the box video. Is that also something that could be cautioned, and how is that communicated to the players?
Yeah, I can't imagine you ever did that.
No, never me.
But yeah, you're right. If players do demand of a review by making the signal, the TV box signal that we are so familiar with now, then the recommendation is that they should be cautioned. That's within the protocol. So players know that. They've been told that. We've done a lot of work with our MLS partners to speak to the clubs, the players, the team, coaches, the administrators and the broadcasters to make everybody aware of what this involves, and obviously that's why we're here today. The players have been told, if you make that signal, then you're in a high risk of receiving a yellow card if the referee sees that. They also have to be a little bit careful in some other ways as well. If they go into the referee review area, that's the area at the side of the field where the pitch side monitor is. If they follow the referee over there and have a look at the screen themselves, then again, that is a caution now under the protocol. And if anybody from the club staff goes into that area and has a look at the screen themselves too, then they'll be sent from the technical area and they can watch the rest of the game from a seat in the director's box. So that's what they have to be careful with. But other than that, we're saying to the players, look, just carry on, play as normal, don't ask for checks. There was some consideration about coach challenges, which I know happens in some sports. We're saying we don't need coach challenges because everything's being checked anyway. So you don't have to ask, is it being checked? Yes, everything's being checked if it's one of the 4 reviewable situations.
Howard, I have a question. Sometimes technology fails, right? So let's say in the event of a power outage, say, what would happen then?
Well, we hope it doesn't happen, but of course it could. It could. Or maybe some of the camera angles might fail, or we might have 12 cameras and then suddenly only 6 are feeding through to the video operations room. In those situations, we keep going with what we've got. So we'll use the 6 angles that are left. If the radio system fails, and obviously we rely on communication between the VAR and the referee, if that fails, we'll go to something else. We'll use walkie-talkies and we'll communicate with the 4th official. We'll still use the system. However, if it totally fails, the game carries on. We don't cancel the game. The game is played as it was pre-video review. Everybody will be told, though, because you need to know it's not working. So the coaches will be told by the 4th official, the referee will tell the captains, and the public will be notified on the public address system. So, again, we hope it doesn't happen, but it could, and we've got a contingency in place should that happen.
David Goss.
We know you want it to be quick, the reviews, but that time while it's happening, is it like a hydration break where the players can go over to the bench, talk to the coaches? How's that whole thing handled, especially in like a high-intensity situation where there's a potential red card and a tussle between some players?
Yeah, it's a good question because we're now asking the referees to do something quite different. They're leaving the field of play to look at a screen and concentrate on that. Our assistant referees and 4th officials know that they have a role to play to monitor what's happening on there. You're right, it could be a heated situation, so we need to make sure that they're aware of the need for them to be present on the field, to get close to any players who maybe are emotional and make sure that they monitor what's happening. I guess the conditions that sometimes we find here in North America can get pretty hot. If players take a drink in that time, we take a sensible approach. But it's not a water break, it's simply a review break. Again, we'll try and do it as quickly as we can, but without sacrificing accuracy. We ask players to be patient. We're trying to get to the right outcome. We're trying to rectify a clear and obvious error. And even though on that occasion it might go against you as one player, the next week it'll go in your favour. And again, the feedback we're getting from the players so far has been pretty positive.
Howard, we have another question from Twitter. Who are these people serving as video assistant referees? Are they actual FIFA refs?
Well, they're all out of our MLS referees. They're all being trained up. We've got 49 in total. It's a big number. They're supplemented by some development group referees who are close to making it onto MLS, or some of them certainly are. They're all receiving the same training to the same level. They're all being assessed in the same way. And they've taken to it well. And these people are really excited about VAR. Anybody who thinks that that video review is something that referees aren't positive about is wrong. By and large, they're positive about this opportunity to avoid making clear and obvious errors. It's an extra tool that they're looking forward to using. And, we're all excited. It's close. We've been working really hard. The MLS and Pro have worked hard for the last 6 months to put everything in place, infrastructure in the stadium and training for our officials to give us the best opportunity to be successful that we can have.
Great. Ron, your question.
In terms of severity in yellow and red, once you've made a decision, could something like the play you had with Alonso and De Jong, could the VAR go to you and say, you might want to take another look at this, this might be a red?
Yeah, for sure. That play, I would have liked VAR in that situation. I would like video review for somebody to have a look at that. Again, it's an example of how the angle that you have as an official sometimes doesn't give you the answer that you want, and another angle does. Just because something goes to video review doesn't mean that the referee's made a bad mistake. I want people to move on from that in their minds. It could be that they've made a bad mistake, that they've just misjudged something, but quite often what we're seeing is that actually they just don't have the angle that opens up the answer. And a different TV angle does. So, for example, in that situation, yes, it was a clear red card. It was a clear and obvious error on my part not to send the player off. And VAR would have been able to recommend a review to me, and I would have been able to make the right call.
David.
You said that only the broadcast angles are available. What's the conversation with different stadiums, different channels about the standardization of the broadcast for this process?
Clearly, there's a minimum number of camera angles that we feel we need to get the best chance of success. Because of this, the logistics and the layout of stadiums, sometimes those camera positions are slightly different in different places. I guess as we move forward this next phase, we'll see which works the best and gives us the best possible outcomes, and we'll keep looking at that, keep speaking to the owners of the clubs and to the league, and we'll look at where are the best camera angles, how many is the optimum number. If you have too many, is that helpful? Really, if you have 44 camera angles, you're not going to be able to look at all of those very quickly and efficiently. So I guess it'll become quite apparent what the optimum number and positions are as we go forward. There will be some slight variances at the very start of this project. We'll see which ones work best, and we'll keep making our recommendations.
Howard, when it comes to the goal celebrations, do you see this affecting goal celebrations, especially with the eyes of the cameras watching and correcting any possible mistakes?
I hope not. I hope players still celebrate goals like they always have done. It must be, you scored a few in your career, it must be one
not
of the...
enough,
and some important ones in MLS Cup finals as well. So it must be the greatest feeling in the world to score a goal in an important game, and you should celebrate that and enjoy it. And even now we see situations where players celebrate and then they recognise the flag is up, and then they have to wind back from that celebration. It's not really that much different to that, really. Celebrate the goal. Most of the time the goal will stand. There'll be no clear and obvious error identified, so we'll give the goal. We're just going to check whether or not there was one. And on occasions, we'll have to wipe that goal out, but we'll have only wiped it out when a clear and obvious error has been identified.
Howard, any final points you want to make before we close out the presentation?
No, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's tuned in for this seminar. It's a great opportunity for us to share with people what video review and what VARs do, what it does, what it doesn't do as well. That's just as important, to manage some expectations. It won't bring us to 100% accuracy for two reasons. One is we don't check everything, otherwise we would change the basic way the game is played, the game that we all fell in love with as youngsters. It will change the way the game is played if we checked everything. And also, there are some elements of subjectivity in our sport where people have to make a determination, a judgment on what has actually happened, whether you are a journalist, a broadcaster, a fan, a player, a coach, a match official. So what is 100% accuracy? I don't know, but what I can say is this is a really welcome tool to reduce the number of clear and obvious errors that have been made in MLS matches from the 5th of August, and we're looking forward to it.
Howard, thank you so much for putting this all together. It was so informative. Thank you to our members of the media for showing up and for all your wonderful questions. Kaylin, always great to hang with you. Guys, just a reminder that the full implementation of video review begins August 5th. If you have questions, continue to hit us up, and be sure to check out our website, MLSsoccer.com. We're going to have a ton of information about video review, so check it out. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon.